today's video, I want to give you some resources and tools that you can use for your native plant gardening. And the first resource I want to discuss is the Bonap website, and it is bonap.org. And the way that I use Bonap is actually I will find out the name of the plant that I want to look up, and then I will Google that and I'll get its scientific name. I will copy the scientific name, which in this case it's Echinacea purpurea, or purple coneflower, and I take the scientific name and I paste it into Google, and then I put a space and then I put Bonap. So what this does is it gives you the link to the Bonap page specifically for the Echinacea category. I always forget what that's called. And then you can find purpurea in that list, and then you can go to its actual map, which on its map it will show you the green is the native areas, and I will actually discuss the different colors on the map in a second, but this is the page with all the echinacea, and then it'll show each different type of echinacea and where it's native to. Such a great resource. You can cross-reference this with your other resources because this is such an accurate representation of where things are native to in the United States. So here's the color key. You've got the state color key, species present in state and native, and then you've got the county color key, species present and not rare. So these green colors are the colors you want if you're looking for native plants. So you just want to make sure that basically your state is green, and it's even better if like your county is the bright green, I think is how I interpret the map. Blue is exotic. That brownish gold down at the bottom left means it's not present in the state. That mint green, kind of blue green that I just highlighted, that means it's native but adventive in the state, and I can actually show you the definition for adventive in a minute. But if it's pink, it's noxious, so it's a noxious weed, which it means it's invasive if it's pink. So if we go back to the Echinacea purpurea map, you can see the dark green, the bright green, the yellow, and you can see orange. So orange says species extirpated. And so if we go back to our map, you can see there's orange up there. And you can see that means that species has basically gone extinct in those counties, but it's native in that state. So I hope that makes sense. This goldish brown means that it's not present in the state. So basically, it's not native there. So it shouldn't be there. It's not native there. I hope this is helpful. I find it really helpful to use this tool. I use it all the time when I'm determining what's native to my state, what's native to my county, and this is a way I can double check because the different websites I use, the different YouTube channels I watch, the different gardening people I watch, just because it's native to their state doesn't mean it's native to my state. I'm in East Tennessee, and so I have to double check some of these plants because there's like beautiful plants up in the Northeast that might not be native here, so I have to be careful about that. So you need to do the same thing. If you're watching my channel and you're in a different state than I am, and even if you're in the same state that I am, but you're on like the opposite end of the state, we might have different things native to our different areas as well. But usually, if it's native to the state, it's native across the state. Usually. But again, double check. So here you can see the yellow, which yellow means it is... Alright, there's the mint green. So the blue mint green means it's native but adventive. So this one I kind of get confused on a lot. So I decided to go ahead and copy and paste the word adventive into my browser and search for what exactly that means because I was not really sure. So I copy and paste the word adventive into Google and I just do a quick search and I go to the dictionary website, or what website did I end up on? I think it's Merriam-Webster, yeah. Merriam-Webster dictionary site, and For some reason, I just scroll right past it. But eventually I get back up to the top and it says that adventive means introduced but not fully naturalized. So I'm still not 100% sure what this means. I'm not an expert, but I don't know. You might have to kind of do a little bit more research on that, because if you see in this state that it's showing here, it's showing the dark green in most of the state, and then these little mint kind of like blue-green in these counties. And so I don't know if that means it's just not as common, or I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. So you might want to kind of do a little bit more research on what adventive means, because I'm still struggling to understand it, even though I looked it up just now. So Bonap is a great resource. I use it all the time. Another great resource is if you just put the scientific name of a plant into Google and you go to the wildflower.org website, you can find out so much information about that specific plant on wildflower.org. It is a fantastic resource. I think it's based out of Texas, but it will tell you, or it gives you a general idea of a description of the plant. It gives you a general idea of where it's native to. This purple coneflower, it says it's native to the lower 48. And so you can look up what kind of life cycle the plant has, what kind of habit it has, the height, the width, things like that. And then you can also see like the bloom times, the bloom colors, and again it'll tell you the distribution, so like where this plant is usually found. And if you keep scrolling down, you'll also find out not only where this plant is found, but also like the growing conditions. You will find out like how much water it needs, how much sun it needs, and you'll also find out what are the soils it's usually found in, or like the soil that it prefers. You know, does it prefer acidic soil? Does it prefer alkaline soil? And does it prefer sandy soil, clay soil? Like, what does it like the best? And then you can usually find some kind of wildlife information, unless the plant is kind of more on the rare side or like not cultivated as often, then it's harder to find that information. But you know, a lot of times you can find out what butterflies host on it or what bees use it. So that's super helpful too. And another great thing on this website is most of the popular plants also have this section here that says images gallery. And so you can go to the image gallery and you can look at all the different photos that they have in their system, in their database of this plant. And it's really cool. It's a great resource. I personally love this photo right here. I think this photo is fantastic. It's showing a lot of purple coneflower in one image with a beautiful backdrop of, I don't even know what kinds of trees and shrubs those are, but those are beautiful. So, highly recommend this website. I think you can get a lot of information out of it. And you can also actually find out like who took the photo in most cases and like what the photo is of, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, we've got Bonap, we've got the wildflower.org website. I also want you to look at iNaturalist. iNaturalist is something I personally use almost every week, or at least every month. You can record your observations, which means you can record sounds on your phone, or you can like take a picture. That's what I do. I just take pictures of a plant and I'm like, what is this plant? So right now you're looking at the website on the browser, but I actually use it on my phone. So if you click the Apple Store icon, you can download it on your iPhone, or you can download it via Google Play on the left side. So now we're on my phone and I'm clicking the app, and so inside of here, just scroll through my photos, and I'm clicking a photo of an oak tree. It's like a little oak sapling I found in my backyard. And yeah, I am like 99.99% sure it's an oak, but I actually don't know what kind of oak it is. I think it's some kind of red oak, but only because it kind of is showing some red fall color. So I want to know exactly what kind it is. You're not always going to get a perfectly accurate answer on here, but usually you're going to get really, really close. And the top one on here is called Southern Red Oak. So it thinks that this tree is Southern Red Oak. So we're going to click the little eye, and when we click the little eye, it will show lots of images for Southern Red Oak. And you can just swipe through, and you can just look through the different images, the buds, the leaves, the acorns, the trunk of the tree. Obviously, the one that I found is a sapling, so it's not going to have a trunk of a tree, but still, this will give you an idea of what it looks like in different maturity levels and different parts of the plant. So this app is one of my top most important tools that I use. There's a little map down at the bottom of it, and you can click that and you can see like generally where people are finding this plant, because basically when you put a plant into the system, you can pick sort of kind of where it is on the map. So you can actually click a location, and so that records where it's at. So as you can see, it's mostly in the southeast and northeast United States, maybe a little bit of the Midwest. But then I decided I wanted to click the link in there that actually says the scientific name, which is Quercus, is it falcata or falcata? But anyway, it is Southern Red Oak, and it's going to talk about the oak in Wikipedia, and it's going to show an image of the leaf, and so this gives you more information about it. But again, you can also take this name and you can put it in wildflower.org or whatever, wherever else. I'm going to put it in Bonap because I want to see, is it actually native? Pretty sure it is based on that map on iNaturalist, but I like to cross-reference with Bonap because it's the most accurate that I've found so far. So we're going to click the oak category. Again, I'm using the wrong word. It's not a category, but I always forget what it's called. And we're going to go to the falcata species in the oak group category. And as you can see, Tennessee is a place where it is native. And I'm looking at my county on the right side of Tennessee, on the east side of Tennessee. Sure enough, that tree is native. So I have probably a native Southern Red Oak sapling in my backyard. Am I 100% sure? No, I'm not. But here's another resource, and it is wildones.org. If you don't know, you can join Wild Ones. It's a group that you can join. There's different chapters all across the country. And here is the section of their website where they have free native plant plans, native plant landscape designs. So I picked Chattanooga because that is the closest to my area. Chattanooga is actually more south than where I am, but this is the closest to me, so this would be the best fit on this website. And you can look for your own that would be the best fit for your area. So I'm just scrolling through and I'm seeing buttonbush, elderberry, Carolina allspice, big blue stem. I'm seeing clethra. I'm seeing purple lovegrass, inkberry holly, mountain mint, yaupon holly, blue mistflower, goldenrod, and sure enough, I have a lot of these plants in my garden, so it makes sense. Some of these plants do better than others in my garden, but safe to say that a lot of this really does fit my area. American Beautyberry and blue mistflower and elderberry, I have those. I love those. They do great so far. Buttonbush doesn't do as well in my garden. I don't know if it's wet enough for them, but if I give them extra water, they seem to do pretty good. Let's see, what else do we have here? And then we have a bunch of other ones I don't have yet. Now, I do have Rattlesnake Master seeds, so I'm going to try those soon. But down here, you can see the name of the designer, so you can actually find out who designed this specific garden plan. And you can find out just a little tidbit about them, and then you can find out about Wild Ones down below. By the way, I'm a member of Wild Ones, so highly recommend becoming a member. I love the Wild Ones groups. Anyways, so if you're interested in volunteering and getting to be a part of a group when it comes to like native plant gardening and nature, garden walks, garden tours, nature walks, that kind of thing, you would love Wild Ones. You got to check it out. Okay, so I wanted to kind of look at the plan a little bit more, the landscape plan, and kind of see all the different things that are planted and where they're put and everything. And you can see this yard that's featured is not very huge. It's not very big at all. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably like half the size of my yard or smaller, which is, I mean, they've packed a lot in this small yard. And so I think that's pretty cool. It's always good to try to get your plants as close together as you can within reason. Like, obviously you don't want to hurt the health of your plants by putting them too close together, but you do want to put them as close together as you can to prevent invasive plants that are not native from seeding themselves into your beds. So anyway, I also wanted to just click on another one. So I clicked on Chicago, and so this one would be great for you guys that are in Chicago or close to Chicago. And you can see the different kinds of plants that are planted in here. It looks like we've got some little blue stem, Jacob's ladder, prairie dropseed, which actually, those are also native to my area too. So sometimes there's some crossover with these different regions and with these different garden plants that you can plant in your area too. So it really just depends on where you live. And again, any plant that you're curious about, that you think is beautiful and you want to put it in your yard, find out the scientific name for that plant, take that scientific name, type it into Google, and put a space, and after that put the word Bonap, B-O-N-A-P, and then press enter. So that's 3 different words. And when you get those 3 different words in Google and you press enter, you go to that link. Usually it's the first link, and it'll be on the Bonap website, and it should show you a bunch of maps, and you need to make sure you go to the specific one you're looking for, because it will show you a huge list, and then you click that one, and that will show you where it's native to. So I just wanted to reinforce that because it's super important. Okay, this website has other great resources too. It talks about starting a new garden from scratch. All kinds of resources on here, so highly recommend wildones.org and the accompanying site that has their native garden designs. Okay, so next I want to go to the National Wildlife Federation website because this is where you can get your garden certified. Now there are other ways to get your garden certified, but this is what I've used, and so this is what I'm familiar with. Go to Get Involved and click Certify a Garden. And once you do that, you can see how you certify it. You need to have food, water, a place for them to raise their young, and cover. All of that for the wildlife. So we're going to click the little photo right here that shows the wildlife habitat sign, and we're going to click that, and it says Certify Today. And then this page will tell you exactly how to certify your habitat. It's going to talk about how to create an area for them to survive, area for them to get cover, water, food, places to raise their young, and then also the sustainable practices. And if you click Certify Now, you can punch in your information and you can purchase a sign for your yard, and then we'll send it to you for a fee. So that is what I've done. I just made sure that I was following all the steps, and I had water, and I had shelter, and I had host plants for butterflies, nectar plants, and places for them to create nests and to shelter and raise young. So it wasn't very difficult at all, but it's also a great way for you to get started and figure out how to make your garden wildlife friendly. And then the next website is the North Carolina Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox, which is ncsu.edu, and they have the pronunciation of the scientific names, and then they have a ton of information about the plant. So right now we've got aronia, we've got red chokeberry. On our screen right now, it shows the berries, it shows the flowers, it shows the leaves, it shows the basic shape of the plant. I love this plant, by the way. It has beautiful fall color. You guys need to know that. I highly recommend it. But first of all, this website is great because it goes into extreme detail about flowers on this plant, what they look like, what their shape is. It talks about leaves, it talks about leaf color, and it will talk about like all the different leaf colors that are possible on the plant. But then if you scroll down a little bit, it will talk about specifically fall color. So down here it says the foliage turns orange to bright red in October, which is true. And that is, they're kind of underselling it. It's a fantastic orange and red. Fantastic, trust me. I also love that this particular plant can handle acidic, alkaline, neutral. It can handle clay. It can handle full sun or partial shade. So this plant is great if you have a trouble area or an area where you're like, I don't even know what would grow here. Try this plant, see if it survives. Mine's been doing pretty good with very little care, I'm going to be honest. Haven't done much for mine, and it's done great. I mean, I'm sure it would do better if I, took more care of it and did more for it. But honestly, it's been doing great on its own, which is awesome because it's in a very problematic area. So that's the North Carolina Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox website, or ncsu.edu. So the next thing we're going to go to is Indigenous Landscapes. Just type that into Google. I don't always remember the actual web address for any of these. I just Google them and I find them. So what I love about this particular website is this book. I bought this book. I love this book, and I'm going to also talk about it in the book section of this video. But this book's called Native Plant Agriculture, and it is fantastic. If you want to grow your own food, and you especially want to have perennial food plants, which can be kind of not talked about enough, we talk a lot about annual vegetables around here that aren't native, and I think that we should move to more native and perennial options. So this website's great because they provide this book for sale. I bought it. I love it. It goes into great detail about each of these native plants. Of course, it's mostly for my area of the United States, mostly the eastern half of the United States, particularly the Midwest, the Northeast-ish, and then the South, East. So it's mostly the eastern half of the United States. But it's great. And they also have articles on their website about specific plants. So they've got information on their website, but they also have books. So you've got options on here. You can read their articles for free, or you can purchase their books, or both. I prefer both. So this article in particular is about Rattlesnake Master, and you can just see that they take great care of how they take their photos. They take beautiful photographs. They show the plants up close, but they also show the plants in a prairie or meadow setting. And they show it growing with other plants and how that could look together in a matrix or some kind of grouping. And look at the colors. Look at how beautiful Rattlesnake Master is in these huge drifts with other plants. I love it so much. They also discuss germination tips. This website also has a native plant propagation. I think it's a native plant propagation book. Oh, I forget if it's a book or a brochure. It's called the Native Plant Propagation Guide, I think, and I'm just going to click through some of the photos here so you can get an idea of what that's about. I think that is a great idea and a great book idea. I should probably buy it. I haven't bought it yet, so it's going to go on the wish list for sure. But I think that their books are available for purchase now. Again, I think that they sometimes take breaks. But anyway, the next website we're going to visit is homegrownnationalpark.org. This is a website, it's sort of similar to getting your yard certified through the National Wildlife Federation, except instead the concept is to turn your own private property into a little homegrown national park. And what that means is all it means is you're bringing back wildlife with native plants, and you provide water and shelter for your wildlife. And it's very similar to the National Wildlife Federation website, except it has more of a focus on native plants. And you could be put on the map. So you can sign up to create an account and put your information, put your square footage of your garden, I think is what you do, like, and specifically the square footage of your native plant gardening areas, and you can end up on the map. They've recently changed their system, so if you're not seeing that many things on the map at the moment, that's because a lot of people probably haven't updated their information yet. I'm guilty. I haven't updated mine yet. I was on the map, but now, as you can see, it doesn't show anyone in Tennessee. So it's probably because I haven't updated my information, and other people in Tennessee probably haven't either. But here is the how-to video. You can watch that on their website too. It explains how to do all this. But yeah, that's the Homegrown National Park website. So now we're going to go to YouTube, and we're going to search Tennessee Native Plant Society. And I love the Tennessee Native Plant Society. Oh, it's so good. I need to catch their content more often because I just get so busy and I miss it. But they have great webinars, you guys. You've got to check out their webinars. If you live in Tennessee, such a great resource. And even if you live in Western North Carolina or the bottom of Virginia, okay, Southern Virginia. I just like to say the bottom or the right or the left. Southern Virginia, areas near Tennessee. Kentucky would be another good one. If you live in any of the areas directly close to Tennessee or around the edges, this would be another great resource for you. Even though it says the Tennessee Native Plant Society, a lot of these plants are going to be native to you as well. But again, use Bonap to double check each individual plant. And again, there's just so much overlap between the states. So keep that in mind. You just got to double check for your area. That's the main theme of this video. This is just a guide just to get you started with native plant gardening and the tools that are at your disposal if you are in the United States, specifically the lower 48 United States, continental United States. So they have so many. Here's another one to talk about the Latin names, okay? A straightforward guide to botanical nomenclature. So I watched this, but I should probably watch it again because it was jam-packed with information, and it's just one of those things you might have to watch over and over to really truly get it through your head. At least I do, because I really needed that video, but I also needed to watch it more than once, I think. And then this one's about trees and how to select the best native trees for your landscape. But again, all these videos I'm currently going through and showing real quick, it's all on the Tennessee Native Plant Society YouTube channel. The Tennessee Native Plant Society YouTube channel. Great resource, great webinars. I hope they stick with it and they keep coming out with more stuff because it is a wonderful resource. And they also show books that are great. Like right here, they're showing books that people could use to help them garden. Like the Southeast Native Plant Primer. They show landscapes around people's houses and different iterations of what people have done. Look at that red bud. Gorgeous. I hope my red bud looks half that pretty someday. But yeah, they also talk about water and environmental issues, stuff like that. It's just so great. So the next part of this video is going to be about books. So we covered online tools and resources, and now we're going to cover books. So first I want to talk about Gardening with the Native Plants of Tennessee, The Spirit of Place by Margie Hunter. This is a great book if you live in Tennessee or in the surrounding areas around Tennessee. It has amazing photos, but even more than the photos, it has great information about each of the main, most popular plants here that are native here. And what I love about it, especially, is it will talk about a little bit about what those plants are great for. It'll talk about their fall color sometimes, and then it'll also talk about what region of Tennessee that you can find it in the most. Like usually it'll say, if it's more in the west side of Tennessee, it'll say that. But if it's more on the east side of Tennessee, it'll say that. And if you don't know, Tennessee has 2 or 3 like completely different, not completely different, but very different sections. So East Tennessee has a lot more mountains, whereas the rest of the state doesn't have as many. I mean, the Nashville area kind of does too, but like the more west you go, I think the less mountainous it gets. So anyway, the other book is called Butterflies of Tennessee, and that's by Rita Venable. It's a field and garden guide. And even though some of the plants it talks about in there are not native, what's great about it is it talks about the butterflies that are in Tennessee and what plants they feed on, whether it's nectar plants or host plants. It talks about both. And some of those nectar plants it might talk about might not be native, so just cross-reference it with the Bonap, cross-reference it with wildflower.org. But it's a great book if you are like me and one of your favorite creatures is butterflies. Just saying. Like, if you're a butterfly gardener, you really need to get a butterfly guide for your area. So if you're in, like, North Carolina, if you can find the same thing, but Butterflies of North Carolina or something, that's even better. Whatever your state is, find a guide for that state that talks about that creature. If you're all about butterflies, do that. If you're all about bees, do that, you know, and on and on and on. And for the next 2 books, I want to talk about Bringing Nature Home by Douglas W. Tallamy and The Living Landscape by Rick Darke and Doug Tallamy. So Bringing Nature Home is, to me, more of an introductory thing. It's like, oh, hey, this is why you should care about native plants and native flora and fauna in general. And this is kind of how you get started and like what you should care about and why you should care about it. And The Living Landscape is more like, okay, maybe you already read Bringing Nature Home. Well, here's how you can apply that to your own landscape and how you can actually garden for your area. And the principles from Bringing Nature Home go into the Living Landscape book. So if we really talk about keystone plants like oaks, you know, same thing in the Living Landscape. We're going to care a lot about keystone plants, and we're going to care a lot about the shrubs and the trees that provide host for caterpillars, but we're also going to care about the beauty because it's a landscaping book. So it kind of combines these ideas together. Now, keep in mind, I think Rick Darke and Doug Tallamy live in like more of the Northeast, or at least compared to where I live. So keep that in mind. You might have to double check what's native to your area. But the Living Landscape has a section kind of at the back of the book that has different categories and sections for different parts of the country. So the Living Landscape is still applicable to most of the United States. So keep that in mind. And now we're going to talk about the Native Plant Agriculture book, which is probably one of my top favorite books about native plants because it talks about something that we don't touch on enough, which is growing food for human beings, but growing food for human beings using native plants. So instead of trying to always eat what we're used to eating just because it's what we've always done for like, I don't know, hundreds of years or something, instead of doing all these annual like non-native exotic plants, instead maybe do that too, but maybe try to move toward native plants, perennial plants, fruit trees, shrubs, and things that produce nuts, things that produce seeds, just all these different kinds of things, plus foliage, edible foliage. So I love this book because it goes in such great freaking detail about where each of these plants will thrive the best, what kind of environment they need, what they can kind of grow along with, you know, like their plant community that they grow in. And it also talks about the wildlife that can use these plants too. So what's great is I love this idea of us as humans getting to sustain ourselves off of native plants, and also the wildlife getting to use the same plants as well, and us getting to like live in harmony with each other. I love that. This next book is called Gardening for Butterflies, and it's by the Xerces Society. I'm actually still in the process of reading this book right now, so I can't give you like my final thoughts on this book, but what I can say is so far I love this book, and I think it's great for anybody who's just starting to create a butterfly garden. It gives you the basic tips and tricks, and it does talk about the importance of native plants, and it also talks about the importance of not using pesticides and things like that that can kill your butterflies. So I am all for this book. So far it's beautiful. It's got beautiful photos. It's got great text to go along with it, and overall I'm just pleased with it. And this next book I recently bought when I was in North Carolina, ironically enough, because it's called The Wildflowers of Tennessee, the Ohio Valley, and the Southern Appalachians. And it is actually the official field guide of the Tennessee Native Plant Society, fun fact. And so I just thought it was funny that I ended up buying it when I wasn't even in Tennessee, when I was on a trip to North Carolina. I just thought that was funny for some reason. But anyway, I am still getting my head around this book. I bought it recently, so I'm not fully sure how I feel about it yet. But I can tell you that so far, I love it for the type of situation where you're trying to identify a specific plant and it's in bloom. And so you know what the color of the bloom is, because there's this section at the front of the book that shows like, oh, white blooms, oh, yellow blooms, and there's like different sections to kind of give you an idea of like what it could be based on what the bloom looks like, which is fantastic. Because the other guides that I've talked about in this video, none of them, I don't think any of them have that. I could be wrong, but I don't think any of them have that. So this is a great book to cross-reference with those other books. But the only thing is, even though it is a field guide by the Tennessee Native Plant Society, the thing is, though, is not every plant in that book is native. And I know you may be like, what? But so far, from what I can gather and from what I can see when I've been reading through some of the book, is if it's not native, it says that in the paragraph about the plant. So it'll be like, oh, this was brought over from Europe. Or, oh, this was actually native to Asia. So it's technically not native here. You know, that kind of thing. So far so good. So far it explains itself. But I just want you to know that just because the plant is in that book does not mean it's native to Tennessee, and does not mean it's native to the Southern Appalachians or the Ohio Valley or whatever. It just means this plant is found in these areas. Now let's talk about this plant, and then it'll discuss like where it's found. So usually if it's native, it'll just be like, oh, found on a rocky slope, or, found, and then it'll just talk about what kind of soil it's found in. But if it's not native, like one of the first sentences under where it's found will say, came from Europe, came from Asia. And that tells you, hey, it's not native here. So just wanted to tell you about that, because I think that's an important note about that particular book. And this is a book called Nature's Best Hope. I actually do not have this book, but I've heard great things about it. It's by the same author as Bringing Nature Home, so Doug Tallamy. He's one of the top authors in this genre, so you're going to probably see his name a lot. Again, I haven't read this book, but I've heard great things, so I'm putting it on here as a suggestion, and I'll leave it at that. And the last book is another book I haven't read yet and do not own yet, but I have been told it is fantastic. I've been told it's great. I think it even won a bunch of awards. So it's another book I'm putting in here even though I don't have it yet, and it's called A Guide for Eastern North America. It's called Wasps. It's called Wasps. A Guide for Eastern North America, and it's by Heather Holm. And it says their biology, diversity, and role as beneficial insects and pollinators of native plants. I've been wanting to get this book. I saw it at a library at at I forget what it was called, at a park. There was this park that I went to and I did a tour, and they had like a little library inside of their little like nature building, their little nature center. And I was like, they have the Wasp book. And I was excited. So anyway, I've heard great things about this book, so I recommend it even though I don't have it yet. And that about wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope that this guide was helpful to all these different native plant gardening resources and tools that you have at your disposal, online and in book form. And if you want a more detailed video about my book suggestions, leave a comment down below and let me know, because then I can kind of flip through some of these books and actually show you inside some of these books and tell you why I like each one. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! To support the channel, like the video, comment, and subscribe. You can also support my work by buying art from me at macylu.com. Thanks for watching!